Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and I am back with day number 22 of the March Madness Sketch Challenge from Scrap Now, Sleep Later. I'm going to be using this sketch today from Close to My Heart, and I'm going to be using the Echo Park Hello Summer collection again. I'm going to be actually scrapbooking some photos from the same day of the other photos that I've been doing. These are of my nephew when he was on the thin ice training course. So basically there's this rope above them, and then there's these floating ice pieces that they're supposed to walk across. They are tethered to the bottom of the pool and they move while he's walking across. What I decided to do was have the photos of him walking across, and then I'm also going to cut down a set of photos where he crawled across them as well to 4x4, and I'm going to use those in some flip-flaps. Now I actually reversed this sketch. I started out with those photos on the right hand side of the layout, but because he's walking to the right, I felt like I needed to move those photos over to the left. And then I also have these 3 photos that I'm going to end up putting flat down to the layout. He's looking to the left, so it just made more sense to have the sketch flipped around. So you can see here that I am going to have 4 sets of flip flaps, so that's 8 additional photos that I'm going to be adding to the layout, and it's just really him crawling across. And I wanted to include them because it was the very first time that he completed the training course, and he was super proud of it, and you can kind of see that on his face on the far right hand side. He was just so happy about it. So like the sketch called for, I did go ahead and cut out a piece of pattern paper, and then I thought it was too big, so I went ahead and cut it down, but I knew that I was probably going to use it in strips of those whatever shapes they are, so I went ahead and just cut one shape right after the other. And now what I'm doing is going through some of the scrap paper and cutting down the pattern paper to match up with the photos. Now I didn't follow the measurements exactly, and because of that I had to change up some of the pattern paper placement, and you can see there I was using my T-square ruler to kind of measure how far I wanted it from the edge of the paper, as well as how far I wanted the photos to be apart. So I think I mentioned it the other day that the next couple of days of layouts are going to be grid layouts, and at this point I am over the grid layouts because there's just so much measurement to them. I have combined that Fun in the Sun collection so that I could have the cards, and it's now all mixed up in the paper, so I'm not even sure which pieces are from the collection and which pieces are from the Fun in the Sun collection. I do know that this card is from the Fun in the Sun collection. I wanted to use the entire thing, but because of the way that my photos had been cut down, it was just too large, so I had to really cut it super close to the words in itself, and it looks all right. I mean, I wish I did have like a little bit of extra space. I'm going to be using the Mermaid Lagoon to ink all of the edges, and then I also did add that cloud paper in there, and that kind of completes my top part. Now where the polka dot is, that's where my title is going to be. So over on the far right hand side, I wanted to add a 1/4 inch strip to that section of the layout because I had all of these like random pieces of pattern paper, had that yellow, the blue clouds. I mean, the polka dot does contain all the colors, but I wanted to add a little extra touch, and that's why I went ahead and added that 1/4 inch strip over on the right. Here again, I'm trying to measure the photos and make sure that I have equal space between each photo as well as around the edge. So I spend quite a bit of time with my T-square ruler, moving it around, making sure that it is exactly the same distance between each photo. As I'm getting the photo and the paper down, I do want to remind you guys to go ahead and check out the details below listed for the March Madness. We have several people participating, and there is so much inspiration over in the group. And then if you do complete the layout, you do have the opportunity to win a daily prize, a weekly prize, as well as a monthly prize. Now, Veronica did make some changes. There's just some concerns in regards to the amount of inventory that's going to be left at Close to My Heart by the end of the month. So she has changed it up to be any small business. So if you want to purchase items from Close to My Heart, you can. If you want to purchase it from Creative Memories or Stampin' Up, you can also purchase it from some of our local scrapbook stores if you are local to our area, and there are a couple other stores that she is willing to accept as well if they have gift certificates. But just remember, it does need to be a small business. So you do have the opportunity to win basically $100 worth of scrapbooking supplies, which is pretty awesome. I did struggle a little bit with the paper at the top, and I just used that same technique that I've used before, where I just place my T-square ruler down and then line it up and use my X-Acto knife to cut off the paper that is hanging over the T-square ruler. This allows me for the opportunity to cut it to be exact. Like if I was to take it up and then try to cut even just a paper shaving a little piece off, I always inevitably don't cut it the same length as the other piece and then have to cut that piece, and then it just becomes a vicious cycle. This technique has really helped me several times. So I did have to pull up that cloud paper because it wasn't equal distance between the Fun in the Sun tag and the polka dotted tag. Also having to cut down that Too Much Fun tag to make sure that the grid is equal around all the sides of that pattern paper. And then of course I had to peel it up a little bit to ink that edge with that mermaid lagoon. Over on the right hand side of the layout, I do go ahead and put the 1/4 inch strips down first. And I do that because of course they're not cut equally. There's one that's bigger than the other. So I figured if I cut them down and add the blue paper on top of it, I can manipulate the blue paper to sit a little bit further on one side of the stripe paper so that it looks like the stripe papers are cut the same width. And I think it's probably closer to probably 1/8 of an inch as opposed to 1/4 of an inch. Then I have to do my paper shaving to get that little piece off and then add my paper and photos back on. So of course adding that bigger strip at the top and then the 2 photos down at the bottom. And of course I added that yellow piece down first and then forgot that I needed to make sure that the photos on the right hand side lined up with the photos on the paper on the left hand side of the layout. So I had to pull that yellow piece up, and I knew that it was 1 inch from the bottom. And then I placed the right hand side of the layout on top of the left and used my T-square ruler to make sure that the yellow piece lined up with the top part of the grid design on the left. I'm trying to decide where I want to add my photo. I do know I want to add a journaling card, and I looked through quite a few of them, and I find this green one here that says hello there, and it doesn't really match, but I kind of just went with it. And I decided that I did want the journaling tag to be on the right hand side of the photo, so I do go ahead and move that over. And then inking it up with the Mermaid Lagoon so that it matches the other papers that have been inked. And I'm going to try to use that umbrella again on this layout. Unfortunately, it does not make it to this layout either. Then I pull out these foam alphas that I'm going to spell out the word thin ice. So what I did was just Google this section of Blizzard Beach, and there's a description of each one of the different pieces there. And I think I talked about this in the other layout, the one with Malachi on the zip line. There was really just like a one little liner that was listed in the description, and I used that same technique for this particular layout as well. So in that polka dotted section there, I'm going to have thin ice training course, and the training course is going to be in the orange tile stickers, and I do put those up on the foam strips. I do have the foam strips linked below if you wanted to pick those up. I do really enjoy those for these tile stickers. I feel like it makes putting the tile stickers down so much easier. I usually use 2 of the foam strips to put the tile stickers down. And of course I was just a little bit short, so I had to kind of piece the word course together. I pulled out this windmill and added it right next to the word training course, and then I added a red butterfly over on the right hand side, and I also used some fun foam on that. Now I'm just looking through the scraps of paper trying to find a piece that can add to the top of that one. Now it's going to be covered up with the flip flaps, but I didn't want to leave it just white, so I went ahead and found this cloud paper. Now this comes from the border strip, so it's actually just a strip of cloud, where that pattern paper over on the left, it was a full sheet of cloud paper, and I like the fact that it does look like just 3 clouds there. So I pulled out my ruler, and it has these lines in the center of it. This is also linked below. I picked this up, I think, at Amazon. and it gives you the ability to draw the lines and then move it up a little bit, and there's 2 lines underneath it so that you can make sure that your journaling lines are always straight. My journaling just said, Eli tested his balance by walking across the ice floats at the ski patrol training camp inside Blizzard Beach. So nothing real fancy. And then I decided to add the little half circle over on the far right hand side as well. And that pink piece of paper, I didn't know what else to do with it, and I'm still trying to use up some of these jewels that I have, and I found one that almost fit in that section. I did have to kind of cut off a piece of it to make sure that it fit. Once I got that piece cut off, it does look really nice in there. I used the technique of just cutting off a piece of the backing at one section, putting that piece down, and then as I'm holding that piece down, remove the rest of the jewels from the backing, and then able to get all of it down. I did use my roller just to make sure that it was stuck down. And then I did go ahead and add the date up there in the top section of the journaling with my roller date stamp. I pulled out my wood veneer and I found this smiley face, and I added that over to the far right hand side. I found an arrow to add to the far left hand side, and then I added some jewel dots in red, orange, and blue. So here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. We would love to have you join us over at the March Madness. All the details are listed below. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.